Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April 15th, 2025 Bellevue City Council meeting. It's a beautiful day today. Let's start with roll call.
Mayor Robinson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Malakutian?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Councilmember Neuenhouse?
Here.
Councilmember Stokes?
Here.
And Councilmember Sumadoria?
Councilmember Stokes, can you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have one proclamation today. It is Sikh Heritage Month, and Councilmember Sumadoria will be reading it, and it will be received by Chirag Veer Singh Saraho. I hope I said that right. I should know, you were my neighbor for so many years. So why don't you come on up and we'll have Claire read it, and then you can make your comments. Go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you. The City of Bellevue celebrates the rich cultural diversity that strengthens our community and recognizes the important contribution of Sikh Americans to the fabric of our city and nation. And Sikhism, founded over 550 years ago, is one of the world's major religions and is rooted in the value of equality, selfless justice, and faith. And April marks Sikh Heritage Month, a month to honor the vibrant traditions, spiritual heritage, and significant achievements of the Sikh community, as well as to acknowledge their resilience in the face of adversity and their ongoing effort to foster equality and inclusion. And Sikh Heritage Month offers an opportunity to reflect on the core principles of Sikhism, including the pursuit of truth, service to others, and the protection of human rights, which align with Bellevue's vision for a compassionate and welcoming city. And King County is home to the 7th largest Sikh community in any United States county. And Bellevue is proud to be home to Sikh residents, families, and community members who contribute to the city's cultural vitality, economic development, and civic life. Now, therefore, I, Lynn Robinson, do I say this part? Do I read it as it is?
You, Claire.
Okay,
what did we
I'm
say?
sorry.
For Marilyn Robinson.
My bad. Okay. Now, therefore, I, Claire Sumadoria, for Lynn Robinson, the mayor of the city of Bellevue, Washington, and on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Sikh Heritage Month in Bellevue and encourage all residents to join in celebrating the history, faith, and contributions of the Sikh community and recognizing the importance of learning from one another to build a more inclusive and just society.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, respected Mayor and Councilmember Neuenhouse, for recognizing Vaisakhi and Khalsa Day. American values are Sikh values. The values of freedom, of faith, of standing up for what is right. Just like America's founding fathers, Sikhs came to these shores trusting in God and relying on His grace. And just like the founding fathers, Sikhs have a history of defending their liberties with their fortunes and their lives. Guru Gobind Singh Ji's father, Guru Tegh Bahadur, was beheaded by the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. The Hindu Brahmins had come to Guru Tegh Bahadur, asking him for help to protect their religion, and Guru Tegh Bahadur gave his life in that fight. Guru Gobind Singh Ji was just a child when he lost his father. He went on to create the Khalsa, a community of warriors with a duty to protect the innocent from religious persecution. The Khalsa stand for religious freedom, something we recognize as an American right. When I learn about American history, the founding fathers, women's suffrage, and the civil rights movement, I'm reminded of the same values the Khalsa was built on. Guru Gobind Singh Ji believed in equality. He taught that it doesn't matter what someone's wealth, caste, or complexion is. Everyone deserves the same respect. That's what the Khalsa was made to protect. He also taught that women are equal in every way. In Sikhi, women can lead, fight, and serve just as men do, because dignity and respect belong to everyone. Sikhs also believe in living in the way God made us. That's why we keep our hair. so we can live as a complete and natural people, just as God created us. It's a way of honoring the form we were given without altering it. Vaisakhi was the day when keeping uncut hair was made into one of the 5 Sikh tenets. So as we celebrate Vaisakhi, let's remember the lessons of the Khalsa about being brave, helping others, and treating everyone with respect. These values make me proud to be a Sikh and proud to be American too. Thank you for your time. My name is Chirag Singh, and it has been an honor to speak with you today.
Thank you, Shirag. Let's invite whoever you want to come up and we'll all do pictures together. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have oral communications. Before I hand this over to the clerk, I'm going to say that we have a lot of people signed up to talk about the Luca and rezone for the Wilburton. And I'm just going to say, if you can differentiate as to what you're speaking about the Luca, we can have more people speak to it. So if there's a certain portion of it that you're speaking in favor of or in opposition to, we can only have 3 speak to each topic, but we can split it up if you differentiate a little bit more. So, City Clerk.
Great, thank you, Mayor. So before I start calling names, I'll go over a few of the rules that the council has in place. So the total time for oral communications is for a period of not more than 30 minutes, and all people speaking to items on tonight's agenda will be called first. And then if time remains, people speaking to items not on the agenda will be called. In both of those categories, the presiding officer is authorized to give preference to those who have not spoken to council within the last 60 days, or to people who will be speaking on items that will come in front of the council within the next 60 days. Speakers are allowed to speak up to 3 minutes each, and only 3 speakers are allowed to speak to any side of a particular topic. In addition, I want to remind everyone that in compliance with Washington State public disclosure or campaign laws regarding the use of public facilities during elections, no speaker can support or oppose a ballot measure or can support or oppose a candidate for election, which includes your own campaign. Any speaker beginning to speak on these topics will be asked to stop. So with that, I will call our first speaker, who is Joe Fain. And I believe the second speaker also wants to come up at the same time, which is Patience Malava. We'll
Walk
take Joe.
slowly.
I guess I will just start off, if that's all right. Good evening, members of the council. Joe Fain with the Bellevue Chamber. It's an honor to be before you today with my excellent co-chair, Patience Malava, who I'm sure will be rolling in here in just a moment. Speak very briefly about the Wilburton Luca. This has been a very heavy lift for a lot of folks over the last year, and the Eastside Housing Roundtable has really leaned in, and Patience and I and a group of other interested parties have come together and tried to bridge the gap between affordable housing advocates and the broader development community, and also in partnership with the city, so that we can work for a compromise that will be really beneficial for the entire sub-area. I think we've succeeded in bringing forth a package that is balanced and provides both the recipe for the type of needed housing development that we need, as well as kind of the cost reductions that are so important to ensure that construction can take off in a really challenging environment. There are a number of different recommendations. I have to absolutely applaud staff for their deep engagement with us through this process. They have been really helpful in helping us work through a lot of these very complicated issues. I also really give great applause to the Planning Commission, who really dug deep and got into the deep details of the LUCA itself and brought forward a number of really great recommendations. From a specific policy standpoint, a couple items that I'd like to leave you with. One of the key things that makes this compromise that we've put together work, this meld between lowering development costs and creating a mandatory inclusionary component to the housing, which is something that we in the development community and the business community have grave reservations about, and I don't want to overemphasize how problematic we have found these policies to be elsewhere. But because of the work that we've been able to do together, we've been able to make it work. And so what we presented to you is a package that makes these things work. And one of the key components of that package is a change to your MFTE program. That'll be a decision point that you'll have later on this summer as staff continues to work on that, but it is absolutely integral to making this broader package work for the Wilburton sub-area. And so we are hoping that council will be in a position to provide some direction to staff during their development process here, so that when they bring that plan back to you at the during the summer months, that it includes an elimination of that deeper affordability requirement when you're layering that MFTE program with the incentive program, or in this case with the mandatory inclusionary program. So I highlight that as a key component for your consideration, and again, greatly appreciate the opportunity to partner on this issue.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Good evening, council members. I will build on what my co-chair, Joe Feng, shared, but I'm Patience Malaba. I am the CEO of the Housing Development Consortium, and also work really closely with many of you, and we've had conversations over the last few weeks. We are here to urge your strong support of the East Side Housing Roundtable letter that you received already. This is a collaboration of unlikely partnership that many of you knew was two ends of the spectrum that needed to come together. And with deep collaboration, extensive trust building, we got to a place where collectively we're coming to you, urging you to support option A as the base code, and making sure that we have a 10% set aside at the 80% AMI, which is important, and that's for the rental side, but we also have considerations for home ownership that are included within the letter. I will remind all of us that we are in a deep housing crisis. And what you have as the city of Bellevue is an opportunity to lead and advance step towards addressing that crisis. This work was one of deep collaboration towards a shared vision that we all hold, which is a vision that Wilburton must be a neighborhood that is a transit-oriented community of the future, but one that also delivers much desperately needed housing. So the decision is in your hands. You've demonstrated over and over your commitment to housing over the years, and we ask that you hold that legacy by supporting what we've presented before you. I will underscore some of the aspects that Joe shared. This is a package that we saw is not a severable selection of options, and we know that the Planning Commission did a phenomenal job supporting a core of our grand bargain, and we ask that right now you deliberate on some of the variance pieces and get us to the finish line supporting what we put together in the roundtable letter. So thank you again for your leadership. I want to thank you for your commitment. I know it takes a lot of hard work, but we're close to the finish line, and we're here to support and celebrate with all of you.
Great, thank you. Our next speaker is TJ Woosley.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. I've learned to realize nothing happens very fast anymore. So, Honorable Mayor Robinson and Deputy Mayor Malakushin and council members, I'm TJ Woosley, resident of Bellevue, and we have business in Bellevue. And I would like to be brief. I'm just asking you, I signed up under saying local streets is the issue I wanted to talk about. And I've met with a number of you and talked about that issue. I'm here to ask you specifically in this whole LUCA work to remove the local streets language from the proposed Wilburton area LUCA per the letters you've received from our land use attorney, the Wilburton Property Owners Group, and the Pacific Legal Foundation, and I assume a number of others. So we just need that gone. Bellevue has an absolutely awesome once-in-time opportunity to get this right and accommodate our growing population. We've got growth corridors, Wilburton being one of the major ones to keep a lot of this stuff out of the neighborhoods and achieve the whole city's goal of accommodating them in the right, these people, all of us, in the right place. So we have an opportunity to get it right and accommodate our growing population. I'm just suggesting let's do this really right. It's a whole package. You can't nibble it around the edges and get rid of this or that. Like Joa and Patience said, it's a whole package. So let's do it right. Let's follow on that recommendation. I've never seen such a group of educated, wise, smart people sit around and digest these issues and come to this kind of conclusion. So I'm recommending you take full advantage of that brain trust that you have access to and adopt the recommendations in front of you from this group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alan Bornstein.
Good morning. Good afternoon, pardon me. I'm Alan Bornstein. I'm here speaking on behalf of Mr. Doug Exworthy. I'm going to differentiate a little bit from what Mr. Woosley just said in the interest of keeping time. Mr. Exworthy could not make it tonight, but he's the owner and operator of the Wilburton Crossing Shopping Center, which some of you know as hosts Total Wine and More, and you watch Maya. I don't want to repeat Mr. Wolseley's statements, which I find accurate, but we seek the same goal, which is to strike the street widening along 119th Avenue Northeast and Northeast 6th, and the street lengthening along 119th Northeast. What I would, on behalf of Mr. Exworthy, who wrote each of you a letter explaining his reasons in greater detail, I'm not going to repeat the letter. But I think what we would like to do in the allotted time that I have is to consider 3 questions for each of you, which you may also ask your aides. Here are the 3 questions. Does greater developable land improve the prospect of a greater quantity of affordable housing which is badly needed in our community? That's the first question. The second question is, can one now, in the present, determine the essential nexus between street widening and lengthening with an unknown future development? I think it requires the power of clairvoyance to do this, to do so, and I don't think that has constitutional firmaments. Third question, can one now determine the rough proportionality between such widening and lengthening with an unknown future development? I submit it's the same answer to the question I just posed. But I think these are fair questions that each of us can ask amongst ourselves, amongst constituents, and amongst your aides. And what Mr. Exworthy is willing to do is to roll up his sleeve, meet with each of you and your aides to go over these points. Thank you kindly for your time.
Okay, our next speaker is Steve Kramer.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and fellow council members. I'm Steve Kramer from KG Investment Properties, and it's certainly exciting to be here tonight to see the final steps taken in the Wilburton Vision implementation process. And I have a few final thoughts to share that I feel would improve the plan, so I'll be brief. I just have 3 points. First is that Wilburton has always been conceived as an amazing mixed-use community, not just a residential community. And we want it to be an 18-hour, 7 days a week, walkable, enjoyable area. We've studied a lot of places around the world. We want to create something that's unique. But in order to do that, we must have commercial developments for daytime activation to attract the retail, the entertainment, the restaurants that benefit the residents and businesses alike, and also get maximum value from the light rail and the East Trail. Those are big investments that the city and the county have made. But commercial is struggling, as we all know. And so as you're considering your plans, please do your best to minimize any fees that you can think of on commercial space going forward, at least in the interim. Housing density, we all know that's the goal. And as you deliberate, please keep in mind that each 10 feet you can save through any combination on sidewalks, access corridors, and roads adds another 14 residential units per acre on mid-rise and a whopping 160 units per acre on high-rise projects. Every 10 feet is precious. And lastly, I want to also point out that in some sites, you just won't ever be able to be developed at all because these excess dedications will chew up the site and the land values will never exceed the value of their existing projects. So for small sites, that's really important. And we want to see small sites develop. And finally, timing. Last year, council took only a month to adopt the Wilburton Comp Plan land use map after Planning Commission referred it last summer. And I would just ask that you please pass the land use code amendment in a similar time frame this year. So thank you to the staff, planning commissioners, and to you for promoting this exciting new development for almost a decade now. We look forward to working with the city and our neighbors to bring Wilburton's exciting new future to life. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joe Kunzler, who's joining us virtually. Mr. Kunzler, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time begins now.
Right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Joe Kunzler here, concerned friend of Bellevue. As you're probably well aware, Mr. Zimmerman not just has his exclusion ending at the end of the month, but he's also in Bellevue courts trying to get a competency evaluation. I emailed the council and the mayor what I think is ahead, but I will say here, in the interest of time, that especially considering you have important housing deliberations to work on, which are very important, is that the city council and the mayor need to be insisting at DSHS get Mr. Zimmerman his legally entitled competency evaluation. His next hearing, I believe, is June 15th at 8:45 a.m. I would hope long before then that Mr. Zimmerman gets his competency evaluation and gets the help he needs. Earlier today, he showed up at King County Council and lobbed some of the most racist, anti-American, anti-Bellevue rhetoric I've ever heard, and that's quite something. Luckily, the Chairman Zalahay, was able to have him excluded for the day. But it's really important that we all come together and demand DSHS do its duty. I will also add that Kirkland has no rules whatsoever about public comment, and Mr. Zimmerman is using Kirkland as a launch platform to attack you. God forbid, will attempt to attack on Redmond, which will start a major conflict and basically cause a lot of problems. So you might want to talk to your Kirkland friends about getting some rules up there. I want to conclude on this thought. Tonight, my favorite former president, Joe Biden, called for decency in politics. A message that corely lights me up. I hope you too will join in that call. Former President Biden gave the best years of his life in public service to America, and so has this mayor, and so has Councilmember Neuenhuis, and so has the deputy mayor. I think we deserve a polity and politics that treat each other with respect and gets people, it has government meet them where they are. Finally, on a personal level, I believe it's a moral responsibility of every community to provide as much ample housing as possible, because farmland is sacred. Our unique way of life is at some risk, and pavement is forever. I want to again thank you for your public service and attention to this message. Thank you.
I think our next speaker is Jesse Clausen.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council members, I'm Jessie Clausen. I will take the mayor's direction and distinguish my comments regarding Wilburton. I'm going to talk about what we call the MFTE supercharger related to the Wilburton Luca. And you may have heard about this. You just heard Joe and Patience talk about this. It is essential to this deal that we have struck to accept a mandatory housing affordability program to be able to double count MFTE without a reduction in AMIs. And that reduction should be permanent, not a pilot or something that is temporary. I cannot emphasize enough how important that is. And it's important to the creation of affordable housing. So in Seattle, which had a similar program from 2008 to 2015, they created 7,000 income restricted units in only 7 years. That's 1,000 units per year. And at the same time created 30,000 market rate units. Now that's citywide at a time of very low interest rates, but you can see what that MFTE supercharger can do to create income restricted units, mostly at the 80% level, which provides housing for teachers, police officers, people who are serving the city of Bellevue. I want to be very clear that hopefully the city council can give very clear direction, either tonight or at a future study session, to staff to include this in the future MFTE ordinance. We know that that is not ready today. We know that the state may still have some plans with MFTE, we don't know. But as formal as you can make that direction, the better, potentially in the form of a resolution. We're already working with a few developers who are very interested in developing in Wilburton. We're very excited about that, yay. And this is the number one thing they ask about. They say, is there MFTE and can we double count without a reduction in AMI? So I hope I've said important many times. It is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Pamela Johnston. Okay, I do not see Ms. Johnston in the audience or online. Our final pre-registered speaker is Sean Thorson.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and city staff. I would echo what Jesse had just said, but I'm here to speak specifically about the the local street network. My name is Sean Thorson. I represent American Capital Group, a Bellevue-based market rate and affordable housing developer for nearly 40 years. Here to share some concerns regarding the proposed Wilburton Luca and how it could unintentionally prevent housing, jobs, and infrastructure from being delivered. Many private properties are adversely impacted, particularly our property at 15 Lake Bellevue. Our most pressing concern is the city's proposed local street network and the fact that the local streets proposed throughout Wilburton are in many cases done so without regard for private property, existing infrastructure, topography, property lines, or the most likely future development to take place on a given site. Under the Luca proposal, a new 67-foot wide local street would cut directly through our privately owned property on Lake Bellevue. This road offers no meaningful transportation or pedestrian benefit. In fact, it directly conflicts with the existing infrastructure and easements that are already providing circulation and access around Lake Bellevue. These easements are extensive and benefit every condo, commercial property, restaurant, and townhome owner around the lake. Even more concerning is this road would be the third parallel access route within approximately 150 feet under the new code. This includes a new perimeter road that would be required on the adjacent AutoNation site. So instead of thoughtful connectivity, we're looking at overbuilt, redundant infrastructure on overlapping parcels, all at the cost of usable land, housing feasibility, and development potential. This effectively sterilizes our site. There's no room left to build, the road consumes the land, and worse, it's completely unnecessary. We're asking the local street requirement be removed from the Luca, and that the city instead recognize the access systems that already work today and provide flexibility for developments to create access and infrastructure that works for them and their specific site constraints. Let's tailor new access requirements based on actual on-the-ground needs, not idealized maps. We're ready to deliver new housing, preserve commercial use, and enhance community infrastructure, but we need your help in aligning the Luca with the real site conditions. Thank you for your time, leadership, and consideration.
Thank you.
I did misspeak. We do have one additional pre-registered speaker, and that's Ann Coughlin, who is joining us virtually. Ms. Coughlin, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time begins now.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. I appreciate the difficulty. I'm speaking about middle housing and increasing density in general and not just for Wilburton. I appreciate the difficulty of this decision, maintaining the neighborhood characters and increasing density. One of the justifications for the massive upzone and reduction in parking is to include people who have previously been not welcome or perceived so. We are a minority city, and the vast number of our neighborhoods are, as well as downtown. I attended 3 iterations of the Northeast Bellevue Comp Plan 2018, 2019, 20. In each of the early iterations, the planning department kept pushing the density further and arranged surveys which only gave choices in the direction of greater density and units which most of the people there did not want. The 2 leaders of my group moved out of King County, so that's kind of how that went. Now, with the citywide Luca, the densities have also been pushed by the planning department to ridiculous amounts. Each plot can have 2 ADUs which do not count towards density. I believe they should, and they will be taxed. Middle housing was supposed to be duplexes, or the very most triplexes, which would conform with the neighborhood character. 6 units in addition to 2 EDUs will not conform to any single-family neighborhood that I'm aware of. The city of Bellevue pledges to preserve affordable housing, including single-family, which in some cases includes 2 or more families. Current homeowners and long-term residents are living in affordable housing. These people, including seniors, will be endangered by the lack of sidewalks that we have and increased parking. Seniors, moms with young kids, kids riding their bikes to school will be endangered by all the single and double parking, which will result. Ramblers should be preserved for historical purposes since they encourage aging in place, multi-generational housing. The greater the number of units permitted, the more our health, safety, and the welfare of our residents will be endangered. The current proposal is needlessly aggressive and greedy and will force many current homeowners out, which should not be the purpose of the representatives who we hope to support our interests. Thank you.
Thank you. We have heard from 9 speakers this evening, so we had to have time for one additional speaker. So at this time, I'd ask if there's anyone else joining us tonight who would like to speak to the council, please raise your hand. I do see an additional, the first hand I saw online is Valentina Veneva. Miss Veneva, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Your time begins now.
Hello, council members. My name is Valentina. I am a resident of Crossroads, Bellevue, and I support development of Wilburton as a mixed-use transit-oriented district. I think it will be a great neighborhood addition to Bellevue, and as a resident, I am excited to see it grow and become a livable part of the city. But I'd like to comment on 2 points in particular. First is pedestrian connectivity. Connectivity and amenities for pedestrians are very important and are terrible in many areas of Bellevue. So it is very important to start fixing this at least in newer neighborhoods like Wilburton. So please preserve smaller block lengths that includes local streets and public amenities in Wilburton, Luca. Another thing is that in light of the recent parking reform bill passed by the state and the fact that Wilburton has excellent access to state-of-the-art transit system and East Rail, parking requirements, which are a burden both for businesses and residents, could be relaxed further or maybe even removed. Please take these points into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, I'll turn it back to you at this point.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have a report from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Very pleased tonight to have a couple of guests with us from Jubilee Reach. The city has been a partner in Jubilee Reach's Jubilee in the Community program for some time now, and that program connects volunteers with Bellevue homeowners that have a need to complete exterior home projects. So tonight we have the executive director of Jubilee Reach, I'm sure you all know, Randy Eng, and Ken Carpenter, and they are joined by Serena Miller, our Keep Bellevue Beautiful coordinator. And with that, they're here to give a presentation on the program, and no direction is being sought tonight.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, council members. Thank you so much this evening. Randy Ing and Ken Carpenter of Jubilee Reach and I are providing an update on the Jubilee in the Community Service Program. Maybe. Tonight's presentation is for information only. The partnership between the City of Bellevue and Jubilee Reach with the Jubilee in the Community program connects homeowners in need with resident volunteers. The program is transforming the exterior of homes and is also greatly improving the lives of individuals in our community. Previously known as Day of Sharing and Caring, the program helps residents who, due to financial hardship, medical conditions, caregiving, or age, have become overwhelmed with the physical work to handle large exterior projects such as yard work, fence repair, or painting. Jubilee in the Community has been promoted in many ways, including an article in the It's Your City newspaper that goes out to all residences in Bellevue. Through partnerships with our Utility Relief Program, Home Repair Program, and Human Services Department, we are actively increasing awareness to reach as many homeowners as possible. In March, we mailed applications to 2,000 homes and have already received over 50 applications from homeowners requesting much-needed assistance. Jubilee in the Community applications are available online in English, Korean, Simplified and Traditional Chinese, Spanish, Russian, Japanese, and Vietnamese. Paper applications are also available in English at community centers and City Hall. We encourage homeowners to apply for assistance by the deadline of June 30th. The application is short and easy to complete. If you need assistance with the application, please email Neighborhood Outreach. Back in 2008, when the program began, 16 home projects were completed. In 2024, there was a total of 124 projects, which were completed by 953 volunteers who contributed hundreds of service hours to support Bellevue homeowners. Now, I'd like for you to hear from Randy and Ken for recent examples of how the partnership is helping and empowering the community.
Thank you, Serena. It is really a privilege to be here. Thank you, Mayor Robinson, council members. It is a joy to know many of you personally and to be partnered with you to do this great work that we get to do in the city. So welcome, Claire. I want to say welcome. And I also want to say congratulations to you, John, for many years of selfless service to the community. We do have an exciting thing to share with you called Jubilee in the Community. And we can't talk about it without talking about this deep partnership that we have with the city of Bellevue, starting with Diane and her team, Emil and Mike and Mark and Serena and many, many other people that we get to work with every day on so many different issues, serving the most vulnerable people in our city and building community in the city. So excited to be here, excited for this deep partnership, and excited to introduce you to Ken Carpenter, our Director of Community Care, who's amazing.
Hello, Council. Thanks for having us here. It's my pleasure to be here. Hello, Claire. Nice to see you. Indeed, my name's Ken Carpenter. I'm the Director of Community Care. I've met a number of you. I want to tell you, I live in Bellevue. Our family's been in Spirit Ridge for 30 years. Our 3 kids have gone through the schools, are now in college and beyond. We love this city. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what you do, the time you take to lead the city so well. So thank you. Today's climate in our nation is difficult, and it spills into Bellevue, no question. There are people living in fear. We have the privilege of being close to many of them every single day in the work that we do. Prior to that, the pandemic was here, and it brought a lot of people into isolation, as you know. People were by themselves, lonely, and that still remains true to this day. The target audience of this program, although it's not all, but the target is really people who are like this, isolated. People who have lived in their homes 30, 40, 50, 60 years in the same house, often widowed or divorced, fixed to low income, often disabled. These people are in Bellevue. And they need to know that they are still seen, cared for, important, that they belong. People like this can be as marginalized as anyone else in this city. There are 2 things that are difficult to get people to apply for this program. Number 1 is pride. Number 2 is they simply don't believe it's true. They receive this in the mail and it looks like a scam. There's no way this can be possible. Nobody does this. Nobody comes and helps people they don't know. I want to tell you one story from last year. In May, there was a couple in their 50s here at Overlake Hospital, and they applied for this program themselves together. He soon died later in May. And when we went out to see the family in Lake Hills, we met her and their teenage daughter. And we entered their life in a time of heavy grief, as you would expect. And they allowed us into their life. And we stayed there, started a relationship. And what you could tell was not only did their house need care, they needed love. They needed to know they were not alone, that there were people in this city who cared that their husband and father had just died. So over the next few months, we did take 6 groups to their home, including the Bellevue School District Leadership Council, cleared their yard of junk, cleared it of yard waste, painted the entire Rambler, built 2 fences. And at the end, I will just tell you that the answer I got from her when I asked, "Do you feel loved through this?" she said, yes. Cared for, seen, grieving but healing, and not alone. The heart of this program is just that. It really is not about the yards or the houses or the fences. It's about people in this community knowing there are others who will come, who do care. They are not alone. They belong. They're important. They're seen. All of these magical words. So the question of who does this, who comes out on a hot July and works in the afternoon, who comes out on a stormy Saturday morning in March and helps people they don't even know, who does this? Nobody does this, but we do it, and you do it. The city believes in this, and this year, 124 projects were completed by people who do this. So I simply want to tell you this program works. It's working. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy and Ken. Again, we encourage homeowners to apply for assistance by the deadline of June 30th. Thank you for the opportunity to share another example of our community partnering together and serving one another.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to recess to an executive session. We're going to evaluate the qualifications of the candidate finalists for appointment to elective office. It's going to last about 30 minutes, and we will return to the regular meeting here after that time. So we are adjourning now. Okay, let's reconvene here, please. And just a reminder that if we go out in the hall there and talk, it's like an amplifier into the council here, so go around the corner. So we're back to our regular meeting. We've been in executive session to discuss the qualifications of the candidates who were interviewed on March 18th, and we've asked Councilmember Stokes to recuse himself from this conversation we're about to have. So at our April 1st meeting, we voted unanimously to choose our next council member from the final 4 candidates. And I just have to say, this is a very unique experience for all of us. It is very unusual when a council gets to choose their colleagues like this. And whoever is chosen, including Councilmember Suma Dueria, will have to run in November to retain their seat and win. So we voted to choose the next council member from our final 4 candidates. We chose to do that because the timeline is very short for when Councilmember Stokes is going to retire, and we do have 4 exceptional candidates to choose from. Again, I want to thank, and we all want to thank all 20 applicants for this position. We were able to choose 5 finalists, but it was a very hard choice. Everybody was extremely well qualified, and we appreciate so much the community's desire to be on the dais with us. And I just want to remind everybody who applied that they can run in November. So I think, yeah, so whoever is chosen, if we choose somebody tonight, will fill Councilmember Stokes' seat for the next 2.5 years, and that will be the end of his term. What? No, okay, sorry. Let me go back. Whomever is chosen, that would be lucky. Whomever is chosen tonight will fill the seat until November, and then whoever wins in November will continue to fill that seat for the next 2.5 years, which is the remainder of Councilmember Stokes' term. And anybody who is qualified to run can run in November. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to appoint Vishal Bhargava to position 1 on the Bellevue City Council, effective May 5, 2025, and contingent upon Councilmember Stokes' resignation on May 22nd.
Any comments? It was not an easy decision. All right.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Mayor?
Yes?
I'm so sorry. Deputy Mayor, you said May 22nd. His resignation is May 2nd.
May 2nd.
May 2nd, yes, thank you.
May 2nd.
Thank you.
That's a friendly correction, Scribner's error. Okay, and we have a second from Councilmember Lee. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. I have to catch up here. Okay, we have a public hearing. City Manager, would you like to introduce our public hearing?
I'm so sorry.
What?
The consent calendar.
Oh, my God. Okay, excuse me, just a minute. I've got notes all over the place. I'm done with this. We did this, right? Okay, consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. This one should be relatively simple. We do have a public hearing. It's for a proposed release of a water easement, and that water easement is part of a redevelopment
Pardon
of
me.
a property.
We need to
Yes.
bring Councilmember Stokes back.
I will hold.
Just hold on for a sec. Oh, welcome back. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So to continue, this is a proposed release of a water easement. From Finance and Asset Management, we have Lauren Matlick here. He's the Real Property Division Manager. And the staff will provide a brief presentation to explain the easement and the proposed release, and then hand it back to you for the public hearing. And then after the hearing, staff is requesting council consider adoption of the proposed release. And with that, I'll hand it over to Lauren.
Thanks, Ms. Carlson. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. Our staff report this evening is on a request to release a water easement located at 11040 Main Street. On March 4th, council declared this easement as surplus to the city's needs and set today as the date for holding the public hearing. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to allow the public to comment on this release. Okay. The property is located on Main Street between 110th and 112th Avenue Northeast, across the street from Main Street Park and less than 2 blocks from the East Main Light Rail Station. The property owner is redeveloping the site into a 351-unit residential building, which will include an additional 117,000 square foot below grade for parking and mechanical. The existing utilities facility within the easement, as shown in orange stripes, will be removed and the existing water line cut and capped. No replacement for this line is necessary, as the water line was deemed by both utilities and fire to be a redundant fire flow loop and is not needed to meet future service requirements. There is no compensation for the release of this easement, as it was originally acquired at no cost to the city. Following public hearing, staff requests council action on the proposed resolution authorizing the release of this easement. This ends our staff report. I'll be available to answer any questions should there be any following the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. So I think we'll go ahead with the public hearing, and if we have any questions or comments, we can discuss that after. So is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I move to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, is there anybody signed up for comment?
Thank you, Mayor. No, there are no pre-registered speakers, so at this point I'd ask if there's anyone joining us tonight who would like to make a comment about this public hearing, please raise your hand, and that includes those online. Okay, I don't see any hands, Mayor. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, I move that we close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, anybody have any questions or comments on this? This is pretty standard. I'm just going to say that this is part of what we do to make building housing easier, is not encumber developers with something that's not a public benefit to us whatsoever. It's not being used, and this is just a standard thing that we do when the function expires. So we have a motion here. Would you like to go ahead, Deputy Mayor?
Absolutely. I move to adopt Resolution 10-496, authorizing the execution of documents necessary to release an existing water easement located at 11040 Main Street, which has been declared surplus to the city's needs and is no longer required for providing continued water service.
Second.
The granting and recording of such release being deemed in the best interest of the public.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you very much. We are about to launch into a large discussion, and we did not actually get a break. So I'm going to ask, I'm sorry to everybody, that we recess till 5 minutes to. All right, thank you for your patience tonight. So we have a big item in front of us that we've been waiting for. Thank you very much. City Manager, would you like to introduce this?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember. Yes, this is a big item. It's been worked on for years, including some very intensive work over the last 2 years, and particularly the last year. So this is a land use code amendment that would transform Wilburton from a commercial area into trail and transit-oriented neighborhood, and the land use code amendment will align the zoning and land use code with the Wilburton Comprehensive Plan Amendment. You've heard from many, many stakeholders. Many are here tonight, and you've heard significant detail from them. I don't think I can overstate the amount of time and effort that's been put into this work from all the stakeholders and the staff and the Planning Commission, looking at many, many options and some adjustments to the code as it was originally proposed. And it represents a tremendous amount of listening and learning and compromise from many. So I'd like to welcome Planning Commission Chair Geppel, as well as the staff from the Development Services Department. We have our Director, Rebecca Horner, Nick Whipple, Code and Policy Director, Molly Johnson is joining from the Transportation Department. And they are here tonight to provide a very good and detailed overview of the Planning Commission recommendation. They're here to take your questions. They're here to provide additional information to you at a future meeting, and they're here to take direction from the council. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca Horner.
Thank you, City Manager Carlson, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the council, Rebecca Horner. Very glad to be here. This represents a night of a culmination of a labor of love, and you can see the names on our slide here, but there were dozens of others in the city who worked tirelessly to get us to this point through the Planning Commission. So we're very excited to bring this study session to you. We did have one member who unfortunately had to leave due to an emergency, so Josh is not with us, but we will carry on. We will ask you tonight for feedback and consider giving us direction to move the land use code amendment forward for adoption at a future date. And our agenda for this evening is to share with you the background and process, as mentioned, has been very collaborative and extensive.
We will share with you the details of the land use code components. We will share with you, Chair Goppel will share with you the Planning Commission recommendation and some thoughts around that process and the public engagement that we went through, that collaboration, and eventually ask for your feedback and direction. And with that, Nick will share with us the components.
Great, thank you, Rebecca, and good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, members of the council. We are excited to be here tonight to transmit the Planning Commission recommendation. Very grateful that Chair Galpo could join us, as well as Molly Johnson in our Transportation Department. So we wanted to start out first by sharing that this is a vision for the area that was shaped by community. Many different voices contributed to the dialogue of what the future could be for the Wilburton area. That was through online format, in-person engagement, throughout the length of the project. So as we began engaging with folks with policy work, and then as we got into more of the details around code and how this could be implemented and the vision could be realized. For the CPA process, that comp plan amendment process, we had over 350 participants that weighed in on some of the policy priorities, which we'll go over in the next slide. We held lots of different events with the community just to get those priorities down. Many others participated in earlier related visioning efforts, as well as through the environmental review process too. So really, as the title says for this slide, it was a vision that was shaped by community, and council took the first step to memorialize this vision by adopting the comprehensive plan amendment this past summer. Some of the major policy moves that the vision is trying to advance and that you all adopted in July of 2024 by ordinance. We've kind of grouped them into different categories. So first with cultural and community connections. So really looking at ways that we can provide an active and vibrant identity for the Wilburton area. Also provide for some unique mix of businesses. There's opportunities in Wilburton as a unique neighborhood that's centered around East Trail, has access to 4 light rail stations. We've got the Grand Connection that's extending across the way as well. So lots of opportunity to provide businesses that really support that type of activity we're building. And then real great opportunities with the infrastructure to enhance some of our multimodal connections or establish those. The area today is not really conducive to the type of bike and pedestrian mobility that we're really trying to bring to the area. And thinking about future land use in that next category, trying to transition the area into more trail and transit-oriented uses with the opportunity that is provided to these properties to increase both the density as well as the height, figuring out ways that we could diversify our housing stock and leverage the affordable housing opportunities that come with that upzone. We also want to note that this land use code amendment is one tool to help us get to the vision. There are a range of other implementation tools. We've got the transportation design manual that helps kind of build out some of that infrastructure and what that looks like. We also have our community development department that's been working on a sustainable district concept for the area. So trying to figure out how we can partner with folks to help realize that element of the vision as well. But the land use code is an important tool in helping us get to that vision. For open space and natural systems, trying to build an urban park system that's centered around East Trail. We're also fortunate to have Sturtevant Creek that runs through Wilburton, Lake Bellevue, and some wetlands in the area as well. So finding opportunities to enhance those natural features and really make those kind of the asset for the neighborhood as well. And then the sustainable district, as I noted, was part of the vision as well. You'll see some themes of that as we move through the different LUCA components. And then East Trail, identifying that as a major opportunity area for the city, using that as a linear park and trying to drive some more traffic there so that people can really enjoy that as a back door to the city. The purpose of the LUCA is to implement the Wilburton vision through a land use code amendment, or LUCA as we like to call them. A couple of key ordinances, the comp plan amendment that was adopted by you all in July of 2024, and then of course the citywide comp plan update, which was our periodic update, happens every 10 years. You all adopted that in October of 2024, and that set our growth targets for ourselves. When council discussed the comprehensive plan amendment for the Wilburton vision implementation, you all identified some of the items that you really wanted the Planning Commission to pay close attention to and incorporate as they began their work. So some of those items we've documented here. we'll start at the top with supporting life sciences and mixed uses generally. So you'll notice, or I hope you'll see these themes. I won't preview them for you. You'll pick up on them, I think, as we move through it. So support a sustainable district in Wilburton. There was interest in affordable commercial space for small businesses, trying to support those, which we're excited. We have an amenity that tries to address that. Emphasis on walkability and ensuring our transportation infrastructure can support the planned densities for this area. The zoned capacity for this area would allow for up to 14,800 housing units, which is a substantial amount of density. We do project in the next 20 years about 4,000 new homes could be created in Wilburton. So making sure that we can support that type of density we're bringing. And then emphasis on affordable housing production with this upzone that's being provided. And then there was also a strong emphasis on evaluating opportunities for phasing in requirements in response to our current economic conditions for development as well. So now just to dive into the LUCA components, we'll talk about the first category here, so our land use districts and building design. So Wilburton will be establishing 4 new land use districts in the city. We'll start first with the urban core. This is at the center of the map. It's around Grand Connection and on the west side of East Trail. This is where building heights could reach up to 450 feet. And there's also an unlimited floor area ratio for residential development. So the form standards are really what would control in the urban core as it relates to residential. And then as we move out from the urban core, you hit the light purple area. That's our mixed use high-rise districts that could get up to 250 feet for building heights. And those are noted too, just so you can follow along. The mixed use mid-rise is the next tier of buildings. As we get closer to those residential areas up on the hill, we are tapering those heights. So that area is where you would see 100-foot building heights. And we also have the mixed use residential mid-rise. And that one is more geared towards where we'd like to see our residential development, really close to those residential areas up on the hill. So the height and the floor area ratio, or FAR, does vary by district. It tapers in the TOD. We've also built in some flexibility on building design as it relates to mass timber, which is a more sustainable type of construction to reinforce the eco-district concept. And then we also wanted to pay close attention to life science projects as well. Those are the types of uses that really have specialized type of development. And so making sure that our floor plate sizes, for example, or our mechanical equipment allowances are really supportive of that type of use, since that is something that was important from you all, as well as our economic development group. For land uses and nonconformities, the approach that we've taken in Wilburton is to allow all uses by right, unless they were deemed incompatible with the Wilburton vision. So we've opted to take a new approach to regulating land uses in the city, at least in the Wilburton area. We wanted to be more clear about what are the uses that are incompatible with the Wilburton vision, and let's write those down. And then what are the uses that they could be compatible, but they might need to be designed in a certain way. So those uses would have special requirements attached to them. For non-conforming uses, our provisions were to, or the recommendation from the Planning Commission was to mirror the Bell Red approach. It's another area that the city has experience in transitioning from more of a lower density land use pattern into more high-rise transit-oriented development. So a lot of benefit to trying to use that framework. That does include, though, a list of Wilburton-specific items that would be required of properties as a part of proportional compliance. So rather than requiring projects to fully redeveloped, they can continue to expand, they can grow in the Wilburton neighborhood, but we do ask that they start to make some incremental improvements to help get us to the vision, acknowledging that they might have other plans for their property and they're not ready to redevelop. So we do expect that this is a flexible approach that will work for a lot of the businesses that are currently in Wilburton. And then affordable housing. So this is really central to the Wilburton LUCA. And this was also something that was of great discussion amongst the Planning Commission as well as stakeholders. We did hold a separate workshop with stakeholders, a sub-team from the Bellevue Development Committee to really engage on this topic and help inform a recommendation to the Planning Commission. So the approach that the Planning Commission recommends is to have a requirement for affordable housing. The policy intent with this approach is to give a clear and consistent framework, ensuring that all projects, both residential and commercial, contribute equitably to our affordability goals as a city. So some of the components of this program, there are a few options that projects have to satisfy the requirement for affordable housing. They can build units on-site, they can do off-site performance, so send that obligation somewhere else in the city. They also have the ability to transfer land. If they own a parcel somewhere else in the city, they can send that to they can transfer it over to the city. We'll partner and have it redeveloped with affordable housing. Or if they have a portion of their own property that they're redeveloping in Wilburton that they're not going to use, they can transfer that to the city as well. And then there's also the fee in lieu option that's available. And it was also really important to stakeholders in the commission that we provide more flexibility by allowing people to kind of mix and match those options as well. So if maybe a 5% set aside works for a project and they'd like to buy out the rest, then they can pair that with a fee in lieu option to satisfy their requirement. The approach here features a higher base FAR, and that's important. So that's the as of right FAR. So they don't need to work to earn additional FAR beyond the base, which is high. But if they do want to build a bigger project, which we would like, then they would then start providing amenities to get a bigger project. I won't read through the set aside of percentages, but there is some flexibility, as you can see there as well. 10% set aside might not work for all projects, so they have an option to do a lower AMI level, so deeper affordability, with a less amount for set aside. And then the in lieu fee was also something that was pretty heavily discussed with the commission, and so those are provided there. $13 a square foot for residential and $16.50 for commercial. Along with the policy approach of a requirement for affordable housing, there is also a catalyst program. So this is easing into the mandatory approach for affordable housing. So the policy intent here is to provide some near-term support for residential development. Some of the components of the catalyst program that are recommended are to vest at land use application. So there are benefits to this program, such as a reduced set-aside requirement or a lower fee. Those benefits would be afforded to a project once they submit their land use application. There is a clock that starts once they submit their application. They do have 2 years before they have to submit a building permit, and that's just to ensure they're making progress. And that's the only way they can keep the benefit is if they continue making progress. So it does get them a reduced set-aside and a reduced fee in lieu, and these also have different thresholds associated with it. So what was, I think, 2 paragraphs in the roundtable's letter is 10 pages of land use code because of the different thresholds that are in play here. Do want to assure you we did have members of the roundtable review the language to make sure that we were portraying kind of what their intent was accurately. So I think we got that right. For commercial catalyst program, same policy intent, so provide near-term support for commercial development. Very similar components, vest at the land use application. There's a 25% fee reduction, which is similar to the residential. And then they also have their own thresholds in here, only they're tied to square footage versus units. And then there's also a piece in here that's on both of the programs where there's a consumer price index suppressor, basically. So the fee kind of locks at a certain level until at least June 1st, 2027, or 250 square feet of commercial development are provided, whichever is later. So that fee will not be able to adjust until we kind of hit that next threshold. And then there is another catalyst program that's specific to life science and medical office. So this fee is a 50% reduction. There is no square footage limit. There is, however, a clock that starts. So once the ordinance is adopted, it's until June 1st, 2028. And I apologize, you're gonna have to hear from me a lot because Josh stepped out, so I'm apologizing for that here. So amenity incentive program. So we still have an amenity incentive program here because projects still have the opportunity to exceed the base FAR. And so once they exceed the base FAR, there are a few options in Wilburton that they can use. This shouldn't be new to council. This is how we kind of operate elsewhere in the city. But I do want to call out some options that were developed specifically for Wilburton. So we have provided some incentives for access and connectivity, and you'll hear about those corridors and in a next slide. But they do get bonus points, so they can, for providing some of the required access corridors, that also gets them market rate square footage. So that still helps them kind of get to a bigger project by just meeting a requirement in the code. We also developed an affordable commercial space incentive, which we are excited to bring in the Wilburton Code. So this would provide some flexibility on a use space for tenants to get a more affordable rent. And then we have East Trail corridor improvements, really trying to get people to help activate the corridor and make some improvements there and some connections into East Trail. Grand Connection improvements, noting that that is a signature feature of the area, so trying to really incentivize that as well. There is also a development agreement path available to that project or to that property so that that benefit could be realized through that process. Green building performance is not new to Bellevue, but we would like to think we've gotten it right or strengthened it here in Wilburton. Since we have had some experience with it in downtown, in East Main, and Bell Red, we've worked with some of the calibration, talked with some stakeholders. We feel like this is an incentive that's pretty attractive and we hope will work well. Considering this is intended to be an eco district, we really hope we got that right too. All right, so now moving into other components. So this relates to access streets and blocks. One of the key components of the LUCA is to try and integrate smaller walkable blocks to the area and also provide more connections to East Trail and really using East Trail as a defining feature of the corridor. So we are proposing, or the commission is recommending, to implement some block requirements. These are similar to what we see in East Main, Eastgate TOD, and Bell Red. And there is a threshold for when you would need to break up a block. So this has been a threshold that has been worked through with stakeholders and has seen kind of 3 evolutions to where it is now. So the blocks that are larger than 105,000 square feet are the ones that would need to be broken up into smaller walkable blocks. And there are options that developers can use to break up the block. So they can be bounded by a public street, private access corridor, East Trail, or Grand Connection. And one of those streets is a local street, which I'll have Molly Johnson kind of talk about.
Thanks, Nick. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the part of this transportation infrastructure that's the public street network, which are called local streets in this context. If you look at the map, you can see that this is just an extension of the existing public street network. No new arterials. These connect to the arterials that are already in the area. When we're looking at the redevelopment of an area, we have to kind of look at that long time frame of what kind of infrastructure is necessary. And you know, you don't always know, but we know for a walkable area, we want to make sure that we have sidewalks, which all of the local streets will have 8-foot sidewalks associated with them. We also want to look at making sure that access is provided into all the different areas. It's not just for emergency access, but this is also for things like school buses and trash trucks, school buses, deliveries, visitors, things like that. So we want to make sure that this kind of core public network can make sure that those functions are provided in the area. And then that core public network is supplemented by a couple things. A private street network that Nick's going to talk more about, the different types of private streets. And then there's a lot of other transportation facilities here. There's the East Trail, there's the 2 line, there's the Grand Connection. And so all these things work together towards that goal of the walkable area. So one thing that we wanted to talk about why public streets are helpful in this kind of limited context like that is those are streets that the city can maintain, and those are streets that the city can enforce different actions on. So if we have broken sidewalks, we can come and maintain. If there's a snowstorm, we can do the snowplow. If there's enforcement needed for the limited public parking that would be available on the streets, or for other things like dumpsters on the sidewalks, this kind of thing, then we can come in and the city can take care of those things. And we found that on private streets, that's just a little bit more difficult as we get out into the lifespan of the street. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have later, but for now, we'll go turn it back to Nick.
Great, thanks, Molly. Okay, so there are other street types. So Molly was referring to the areas that have to be public dedicated right-of-way. And we were really kind of focused on, as Molly noted, what are the kind of core network streets that would warrant that type of decision. And so now there are other types of streets, though, that we wanted to share with you all, because these are other options that properties can use to frame a block. We have what's been referred to as the flexible access corridor in Wilburton. So this is a 47-foot corridor compared to the 67-foot corridor that Molly was referencing for local streets. This corridor is the only other vehicular access street that we have that could be used to frame a block. And the sidewalk width there is 8 feet. So you can see we had an example on 103rd Avenue Northeast. This is by the Mira project over on 103rd and Northeast 10th Street. And so that's an example of an 8-foot sidewalk. So brought a reader or a little A-frame sign out there just to show for scale. And it's not uncommon, as you probably know, for businesses to put A-frames out there. So seeing that there's still some space for folks to kind of navigate around that sign with that 8-foot sidewalk. And it's important, we wanted to put that out there as scale because there was a lot of discussion between a 6-foot sidewalk and an 8-foot sidewalk. So we wanted to also share kind of what that looks like in downtown on some of our streets. So you could see the 6-foot sidewalk examples at 111th Avenue Northeast. This one also is a private street. This is out in front of the Gardens at Town Square and across from the French Bakery. And then behind the Courtyard Marriott on Northeast 9th Street, before you kind of make the turn to 111th, this is another street that doesn't have a planter and that is 6 feet wide as well. So you can kind of see that just for scale as we talk about these corridors. Active transportation is another corridor. Since Wilburton is a transit and trail-oriented development community, we really wanted to feature ample opportunity for people to get around both by bike as well as on foot or other kind of wheeled modes. And so the active transportation corridor can frame a block. This is a 30-foot corridor. It can also double as your emergency fire lane when there's bollards in place. And then the service corridor was an item that was recommended by the Planning Commission at their March 12th meeting when they were finalizing their recommendation. This was a 20-foot wide corridor. It's not intended for pedestrian use. It's more back of house function. And it can also be used as a block face. So this was another item that was added. And then shared use path is an item that we added to the draft in October. I think that was maybe version 3. And this was really intended to respond to some of the feedback that we were getting from the development community, as well as the commission, to look for opportunities to provide smaller corridor widths that could frame the block. And so the shared use path was then introduced as an item that could be used to frame a block that is 14 feet wide. So that is the narrowest corridor that we have provided that could be used to frame a block. Part of the reasons why we were so focused on these widths was we are trying to introduce smaller walkable blocks, and you do need to have some separation for those blocks to be legible as people are trying to get around in the area, and recognizing too the density and heights that we're enabling in Wilburton, 450-foot towers, very large floor plates. Wanted to make sure that this was a comfortable experience for folks as they were able to move through, and they felt invited to come through the site to get to places like East Trail or to visit some of the businesses that we hope will be filling up the area. And then commercial driveways was also added. This was an area that we evolved on as well with the stakeholders as well as commission. So this is an option that would serve sites that are less than 105,000 square feet. So a good portion of the sites would be served by commercial driveways. And then our transportation code determines when a sidewalk is required for commercial driveways. And there's criteria for when that is needed. And so when a sidewalk is needed, this is where the Planning Commission felt 6 feet would be appropriate in these examples. So a commercial driveway is where you'd see a 6-foot sidewalk. Moving into open space and green factor, again, trying to reinforce the idea of an eco district. We were building off of a downtown requirement for 10% open space and trying to add more flexibility. So this is a flexible 10% open space requirement. It is something that can be departed, so some sites might have a harder time meeting that. So it's an item that they can request for a departure with the director on to get some relief on the open space requirement. There is an exemption for small sites. In this context, small sites are 40,000 square feet or smaller, which is consistent with downtown and how they define small sites. And then there's flexible options to accommodate the open space. So it can show up as a plaza. The commission also was acknowledging that our streets, our access corridors are our open spaces, are our public spaces. And so there are also opportunities to double count. So the sidewalk and the planter can count towards your open space as an example. To again help with this kind of feedback that we were getting that the access corridor widths were really hard to manage as projects were looking to redevelop. And then we also have the green factor approach, which has been adapted from downtown and East Main. So this is a flexible menu of options. Projects have to achieve a minimum green and sustainability factor score. And we did in Wilburton increase the scoring for tree retention as well as tree planting. This is an area that our canopy analysis shows is maybe lagging compared to other areas. And so trying to reinforce how can we get more urban canopy in the area to avoid that heat island effect, help make it a more comfortable experience for folks as well, which is why you also see planter widths kind of recommended at their current width, as well as the open space requirement to help try and promote more of that healthy and sustainable kind of living. So you'll have a break from me. Chair Goppel, you want to talk about the Planning Commission recommendation?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. I'm pleased this evening to present the Planning Commission's recommendation for the Wilburton Luca. As others have said, this was a long time in coming. We went through 7 study sessions, and then 6 sessions prior to the public hearing and 1 after the hearing on March 12th before making this recommendation. Staff published and shared 6 different LUCA drafts throughout the Planning Commission's review, each shaped by that extensive input we got from stakeholders, the public, and by the commission itself. These LUCA drafts evolved thoughtfully to refine strategies that support affordable housing in Wilburton, balancing mandatory requirements, voluntary incentives, and broader redevelopment priorities, including street connectivity, open space, and building design. This was an iterative process, and it demonstrates a strong commitment to collaborative policy making and ensures that the final drafts that we're recommending tonight to you is both effective and reflective of the community needs. At the February 26th public hearing, the Commission reviewed information and analysis on outstanding LUCA topics identified during the 6 prior LUCA study sessions. These were unresolved topics, primarily reflecting areas where staff and stakeholders were unable to reach full consensus. And these topics fell into 4 areas. The first was access corridors. The second was off-street parking. The third was small sites. And the final one, the fourth, was affordable housing. In total, these categories had 25 different LUCA options that we sorted through as we were trying to come to a final decision. I wanted to stop for a moment, too, to just recognize the planning staff's great work in this whole process. I also want to thank the members of the public who provided a lot of useful and thoughtful input and insights during the process. And then I also wanted to recognize the Housing Roundtable, which I think was really instrumental in bringing two important constituencies together, both the development community and affordable housing advocates, to come up with a proposed solution when it comes to affordable housing. I think it's important to note too that those two constituencies, while very, very important, are two of all of the values that we need to make sure that we have a successful neighborhood in the Wilburton area. I mean, all of the other things that Nick was describing earlier when it comes to, livability and open space, making this a transit-oriented development with trails and active transportation and sustainability and safety, all those are important things too. And I hope that you two will find that we got the balance of those things right as we were trying to balance all those different factors. As I mentioned before, the deliberations of the Planning Commission started at the public hearing on the 26th of February. They continued on to March 12th because we had some unresolved things that we had to work through. We largely adopted the staff's recommendations, but there were some important things we did further calibration on at the end. And that included things like lowering the fee in lieu to a more, what we thought was maybe a little bit more manageable place. And then also adjustments on things like the Catalyst program. I'm really proud of the resulting recommendation that we have here because it seems to me like it's the perfect example of what I think good government should do, which is to provide a balanced framework to enable both private sector action and to provide public benefit. And overall, the LUCA recommendation balances flexibility, development flexibility or feasibility, long-term livability, and doesn't miss the opportunity to maximize development and housing capacity in Wilburton. The Planning Commission found that the LUCA meets the decision criteria of Land Use Code 20.30J.135 and is consistent with a comprehensive plan, and it also enhances the public safety and welfare and is not contrary to the best interests of the citizens and property owners of the city of Bellevue. The Planning Commission recommended by a unanimous vote that the City Council adopt the LUCA. This recommendation is included in the Planning Commission resolution as Attachment A in your packet. And in closing, I wanted to also congratulate you for poaching our best member of the Planning Commission, Commissioner Bargava. Our loss will be your gain on the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Goppel. And we've got just a few slides to wrap up. I wanted to note he mentioned 6 LUCA drafts. The slide says 5. The 6th was before we got to this night because they had directed some policy changes, so we had to get back to drafting. So we actually have 6 drafts total. So wanted to just talk quickly on the outreach that was done with the LUCA draft itself. So there was outreach, of course, leading up to that May 31st public release date. But we got into some pretty heavy outreach once the draft dropped. So we began working with some of the groups that were already well organized. So the WAPOG, the first kind of acronym you see in the June month column, that's the Wilburton Property Owner Group. The Bellevue Development Committee, BDC, was also getting briefings from staff. And then the BDA, the Bellevue Downtown Association, got a briefing as well right after the draft was released. So we kind of did a bit of a roadshow, went to the affordable housing groups too at HDC to start sharing what the components of the draft were so that people could begin to really get into the details. So then we continued kind of moving through with some of those stakeholders. We also provided a public information session in July, and that was a really well-attended information session as well. And then we decided there was a lot of interest in questions about that first draft, so we thought our strategy here would be to form a sub-team. So what we did was we utilized the Bellevue Development Committee that Rebecca Horner had stood up a year prior. And we were making it open to anyone that wanted to join this sub-team. We had members from the community on the sub-team. We had nonprofit housing providers. We had for-profit market rate developers, land use attorneys, people from different kind of backgrounds start to work now on these sub-teams and really workshop different sections of the code, which is how we kind of evolved our code drafting to get to the versions that the commission started engaging with more in September. And so 6 workshops in total. The workshops really do reflect a huge time commitment on the stakeholder side, the public side, as well as staff side. So there's a lot of prep that goes into these meetings so that they're structured and successful, and then some drafting that happens after those meetings as well. So really a good process, but very time intensive that I think everyone kind of, feels like it's a good investment in time, but it's certainly an investment in time. So with that, Mayor, I will turn this back to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all your good work and for this excellent presentation. I don't know where we're going to go with this. I don't anticipate that we're going to finalize or ask you to finalize anything, but I'd like to encourage council to think about having staff bring back an analysis on something, or if we have questions that they bring it back to us. And also if we have strong support for something, to go ahead and express that. So we're going to start with Deputy Mayor Malakoutian, just his comments, because you worked so hard on this in many different capacities. And then we'll go through the council and we'll end up with Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone. It's not every day that a city like us gets to rethink 300 acres of itself. That's exactly what we are doing with Wilburton, and it is an lifetime incredible opportunity. There is a rare chance to shape a neighborhood around transit and trails in a way that reflects who we are and the future we want to create. We are building on decades of vision and investment. With light rail up and running, the East Rail coming to life, and new connections like Northeast 4th Street stitching things together. The LUCA set the foundation for private investment to follow with zoning and land use rules that finally match our ambitions. Of course, vision like this don't come together overnight. It takes real collaboration from staff, partners, and community voices to shape something bold and thoughtful like this. So I wanted to start thanking our staff, not just the planners. This is, again, one city effort: transportation, parks, economic development, utilities, and more and more. So thank you for your work, especially the planners: Justin, Janet, Caleb, Christina, Josh, and of course, my friend Nick. He went through a lot of rough time. And of course, thank you, Rebecca, for leading that team. Thank you so much for digging into the details and helping turn this vision into something that we can really talk about it right now. The LUCA reflects that work, with its focus on walkability, housing, public space, and a strong sense of place. To the Planning Commission, Chair, thanks for being here. Thank you for going deep, asking tough questions, and staying focused on balance between what's feasible and what's needed, between growth and livability, between short-term constraints and economic challenges and long-term vision of Wilburton. And of course, to the Housing Roundtable. Thank you for helping shape a housing approach that works, and if you guys were not there, it wouldn't be possible. I know how many hours of negotiation and discussion went into this. and I applaud you for sticking with it. That kind of collaboration between developers and housing advocates is not easy, but is exactly what we need and why we are having this great Luca. As Nick said earlier, this is about more than code and policy. It is about livability, making Wilburton a place where people want to live, work, and gather. A place connected to nature, opportunity, and each other. A neighborhood that grows sustainably and serves a diverse community for years to come that we call Bellevue and home. That's why make this so exciting. It is just not another development area. It is Bellevue's next and maybe best great neighborhood. Thank you again to everyone who helped us to get to this point, for your ideas, hard work, hard negotiation, your persistence, and your belief in this vision. And with that, Mayor, I would love to hear what my fellow council members think about this, Luca.
Okay, thank you very much. Well said. I'm going to start us off. I'm going to try to be concise. I just want to start with thanking you, Chair Gappel, for your leadership and the other chairs as well who have been involved in this. This is a huge project for you all, and your work and the other planning commissioners have made the task easier for us, so thank you. I want to thank staff for all your excellent work that you have done and you will continue to do on this, and our community partners who have weighed in a way that helps us create good compromise. I have some questions, and I don't expect answers tonight, but I wonder if you guys can get back to us, maybe a mass email or something, and then we'll compile everybody's questions. So some things are well covered, and some things have not been brought up. So I'm curious if we can think about the floor plate orientation that would make the buildings thinner, north and south, to protect some of the east-west views. I want to know more about the orientation of buildings to sidewalks, and if we've talked about step backs. I do agree in kind of a special treatment for life science buildings and life science buildings with medical offices attached, but not necessarily just independently medical offices. With the MFTE, there's a big question on the layering, whether we should require a deeper AMI with layering. I think we require that in downtown Bellevue right now. And so I kind of like to get a review of the performance of what we already have in place. And then I'd also like to understand if we did it differently in Wilburton, would we have to go back to downtown and change that, true that up? I would like to allow properties who are interested, adjacent properties, to be able to combine their properties for either open space or public amenities. So instead of each property having one, that you could combine 2 or 3 properties or 4 and create something bigger in combination. With the local streets, one thing I've noticed, like in Old Bellevue, is we have expanded the functionality of our sidewalks. And so if you have a narrower sidewalk and you want to have outdoor seating with restaurants, it can be really hard to do. And so I'd like kind of an analysis on your recommendation and how flexible the function of the sidewalks will be in Wilburton. And I wonder if we shouldn't be a little more prescriptive for each street on the sidewalks. And then, this is crazy, but I was thinking, in my experience as somebody who walks a lot, there's like walkable sidewalks, and then there's just functional utilitarian sidewalks. And I don't often see the need for each sidewalk to be really wide. I wonder if you were to do some kind of algorithm with, you have at least 12 feet or greater of both sides of the street combined sidewalk with a maximum required of 8 feet and a minimum of 4 feet. So you could get 8 feet on one side and 4 feet on the other, 7 and 5, or 6 and 6. You could go more than that if you wanted, but I just wonder if that, it's probably too confusing, but it would give a little more flexibility. I want to know a little bit more about the homeownership program, how it differs from what we've had in the past, how it will be enforced. And then how do you determine when the Catalyst program has ended? Like, what is our cutoff point? What's the goal? Is it a timing thing, or is it a certain amount of development that has occurred? And I really like the increased scoring for tree planting, because I am convinced that trees are what create character. And so I really appreciate the emphasis on that. I have a lot more questions, but I'm going to stop there and just listen to my colleagues. So who do we have next here? I think Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is exciting. Wilburton has been our dream, I think, or at least my dream, for a long time. When we did the Bellevue corridor, the idea is to develop the city into one whole. Downtown Bellevue is separated from the rest of the city, divided by 405. And we've done a lot during that period to build a lot of overpasses, trying to connect the two. Some of the major projects we did, it's an attempt to do that. And Wilburton is the connection, really. Bellevue corridor, I believe it's also our future economic development. I always compare with Silicon Valley. It's 900 acres, the same landmass as Silicon Valley. As it turned out, technology is coming to Pacific Northwest, and technology, AI, cloud computing, the centers here, the talents here. We have global opportunity, global talents. So Wilburton is very key. We've been waiting for a long time, so I'm really happy. I want to compliment the staff, and ultimately we actually making this into a reality. So I'm really happy that when we're doing all this, there's a benefit to it. In the meantime, we find other opportunities that we appreciate, we see. We see Grand Connection, we see East Trail, and these are all possibilities. And there were some ideas before. We were looking at maybe having a sports stadium at Wilburton. If we had Krakens located at Wilburton, that would be amazing, right? But we don't have it. But there are a lot of other opportunities. The key is, what do we do to provide the welcome environment and the code that encourages, provides what we need for the future, right? For the people who live here, the people who will be coming here in the future, the opportunity that we are providing them, and the infrastructure that's necessary to make it work for the best we have. So we've been looking at other cities, other places, how we can emulate some of this stuff. So everything we talk about is good. We're talking about future. We're doing multimodal system. Some of the things we never even dreamed about before, but now we see it's possible. So I like this Catalyst program especially. Bellevue corridor is an example. We had it on the map, on the shelf for many years, because we believe in free market. We don't want to have the government to do everything, because number one, it's not realistic. Number two, government is not in business of developing commercial businesses, and it's not government's role to do those things. So we had to wait for many years. And so I think it's time that, Wilburton also is one of those things. So with the Catalyst program, at least we have some opportunity, some say, to encourage businesses. Besides just having a climate to encourage them, we actually have a means, a practical way to help them, to speed up things. And I know many developers that have been here for many years. They've been waiting for all this many years. When is the city going to make it possible, to make it feasible, to make it developing to its full potential? So I'm the kind of person that look at big pictures. So I think this is really an important step to make, and the time is now. So I think I'm really happy it's happening. So there are a lot of details that we're going through. I'm not going to, address many details because it's the developers that know what does it take for them to do something. If they don't do it, we can talk our face blue. I just said before, government can't do it. It's not going to happen unless developers, people who have a stake in the property, many of these property owners have a stake in the property they own for generations. So we need to help them to realize, what they have invested, before. So I like what we're doing. So so I also talk about incentives and versus mandatory system. Philosophically, I don't like government to be too intrusive. So I have some aversion to to mandatory system. But I believe there has to be a happy point that, it's a good thing because everybody is motivated by some things. And we have a priority now. We want to provide more housing. We want to provide more affordable housing. We want to provide more housing for different kind of population. So I think we need to come up with some system that can do that. So I like the idea of working together. The challenge for me is I always believe, the devil is in the detail. I like the concept, but I don't know. I don't know how we can, there's no guarantee, in the future, it's not sure, not certain. How can we have some way of providing some certainty? How do we make sure the two system works? How do we be flexible enough that when we see something either happening, go that way. Not happening, be flexible to make some changes. So I don't know what that might be, but I would like to leave that, as an open provision. And I'm very sympathetic, and I think we realize that. Small lots, and we believe, accessibility, and specifically looking at, Mr. Woosley, his family had owned the property for a long time, and also the whole Bellevue Lake area. There's a lot of roads that seems to be going in there, and it's not really going anywhere. It's not really connected to the rest of the development. So I'm not sure whether just in the name of accessibility that would make any difference. Because, whatever happens is the priority we have to establish. So what is the priority we're looking at? Is it for the development that can accomplish the things we want to have? Or is it just, maybe it's nice to do it? Whether it's necessary or not, because that's the reason why we look at what kind of multimodal system do we have? What would connect people walking or bicycling or other stuff? So we have to look at how do we provide transportation system that we do not have to interfere, invade, or minimize other people's opportunity to develop a more viable business, a more viable housing, a viable actually use to benefit what we do. Not just in the name of, we need to have access, connecting traffic, because we don't really know in the future whether it's going to change, or even we may have good intentions, it may not happen. So I would like to make sure that I would support, removing those languages of unnecessarily interfering with taking away. It's really, I would call that taking of properties, and that's
Can I ask
not
for a
right. Yeah.
clarification?
Yes.
So we've gotten a draft from the staff of the Land Use Code amendments. We've seen a draft from the roundtable, which is kind of a compromise between affordable housing and chamber. And HDC specifically, we've had a recommendation from the Planning Commission, and we've heard directly from the chamber. We've gotten a lot of other input as well, but I'm asking of those, do you lean toward any of the 4 recommendations that you've read?
I think in general, it's fine.
Which
in
one?
big
Which of the
picture.
4?
Which of the 4?
Yes.
Why am I limited to just 4? Just curious.
Okay, I think you're not.
I may not be focusing on
Okay,
the
never
4.
mind. I took down some notes that you're favorable for the Catalyst program.
Yes.
You'd like staff to analyze a little bit the mandatory inclusionary housing
But
amenity
mostly,
program.
yeah, FMTE is important to me.
And then
Yeah,
MFT,
because
and
it
then
encourages
also
the
the
develop-
impact
yeah.
of the street
Right.
codes on the different property
Right,
owners.
right.
Okay,
And then there's other things that you mentioned, vesting fee in lieu. I want to be sure that people who are benefiting with the whatever we call them, incentive, is going to keep the money, keep the development where Bellevue is. Not taking the money, go somewhere else and develop all the stuff, and Bellevue doesn't get anything for it, right? So I'm not sure what the detail specific is. So it depends on what do we do with the developers. The developers will put their money, investment back into Bellevue to accomplish the things, the bigger goals and pictures we want to.
okay.
I'm not sure how to enforce it. So
That's helpful.
it.
So I really appreciate that you kind of itemize the things you'd like more information on or that you have concerns. And like, I can't tell you which of the drafts I'm more leaning towards, and I have also given you my
Thank you.
information, but maybe some of us do have a preference for one of the drafts, and I'd like to hear it if
Yeah.
you have
That's
it.
part of the, I guess, offsite performance for commercials, right?
Yes.
So I think I'm about done. There
Okay.
may be other things I have not covered.
Well,
but
we can hear
I'm
from
not going to
other-
attempt to cover everything because it's probably I consider myself as a layman. I consider the planning commission to be our thoughtful partners, helping us to frame all these fundamental questions. So I appreciate, I should thank you first, but I think the best come the last. Thank you for the commissioners who worked through all this. Thank you for the chair, Creighton for leading this effort. So I think I'm done.
Okay.
And we'll go through some details. I always said devil's in details. So I like to make sure that council
All
can
right, let's
follow
hear
through
from our
and work
colleagues
with you.
here.
Make sure the developers, make sure the buildings come up, make sure the area get developed, make sure it connects
Okay,
Bellevue corridor to downtown.
thank you. Councilmember Stokes.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you very much for the work that you've done. It's been done over a long time. It's not something you just had a couple of meetings and put something forward. I'm very impressed with the work that's been done. There are always things that you can sometime later look at and say, well, maybe we should do something a little differently and all. But I think it's, and yes, there are other pieces, and it sounds like in a certain extent, we have set ourselves up where we have more than one committee working on the traffic, and the streets and everything. And obviously, these other pieces and the planning and all are part of it too. So I'm a little kind of wondering what we want to be answered tonight if we have to look at 2 or 3 others that also affect this. So it wasn't made clear in terms of what we should be doing on this, because we kind of pushed it forward and start looking at things that you haven't really discussed tonight. going back to what you have presented, I think is a very rational presentation, a very rational program. There are a lot of differences. We can talk about 5 feet, 6 feet, how we want to do it, how we want to shape them, and those kind of things. But I think you have to have an overall plan and how these go together. Obviously, things get changed as you go through it. So what I'm really impressed with is the way this is set up and how it all is I think, very, very well reviewed and very well put together on things. And the other factor that I'm a little concerned about is that we are in a time period where we need to do exactly what we want to do, say we want to do with transportation of the roads. But if we continue to say, well, this is really good, but we got some questions with these, let's go back, or the Planning Commission or the Parks Department needs to actually come in and work on this too, we will maybe somewhere down the road look back and say, well, things have changed and there are new ways to do things and we didn't get this done. I'm just concerned about keeping our focus and how do we make decisions and move on things and not continue to work on making decisions. And I think this is a very, very good program. There are other things to look at. Now, obviously, I think we know that when we start putting them in place, we may check something a little different. If we have, say, 6 feet, we get out there, maybe, 5.5 works. I mean, it's not, this isn't something you have to do it by every, tittle and dot. But overall, I'm saying, I really appreciate this. And this goes back to a long range of doing this kind of work for some time. And it really addresses, in my opinion, the major pieces that we need to have in this area. And I think we need to look at things that maybe could change a little bit. But I would personally like to see this been done sometime next year, if not this year, working on it. So I don't want to get into details of this and that, but I think it's a really, really good plan. I mean, better than good. It's a great plan. Things get changed as even you're going along, putting the concrete down. But I'm very ready to actually move on this.
Which one would you want to move on? The staff
Well,
option, the roundtable
okay.
option,
So
the planning commission option?
Well, okay, that's one of the things that maybe I just completely missed it, but the question tonight was presented as, this is the plan and what do we think about it? And what should we do with this? And if the 3 others are here, we need to set this up and get everybody on board on this and understand and
Well, it sounds like you're for the planning commission recommendation. I hear that you're for the planning commission recommendation.
This one?
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Can we call that?
I think it's a good plan. And so if we're going to talk about the other 3, then we need to have those presented. We need to
It's okay.
see.
We don't have to agree on anything
Okay.
tonight.
Okay.
Just looking for preferences and wondering if people have questions or gung-ho about something or
I
not.
guess my other
Anyway,
just one more thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the 7 of us sitting here are going to make a decision on which one they wanted to do because they've been presented at different times and we haven't had an overall piece saying how they can come together or how they're different. Per se, it's, well, that, what, the allow off-site performances not previously contemplated? I don't know, I'm just saying this is a little.
no, it's a lot. It's a
to-
lot. And so that's why I prefaced our conversation tonight with,
Okay.
I'm not expecting us to be able to do that tonight. But appreciate your support
Okay.
for what was presented.
Yeah, okay,
And we're just gathering input from everybody here, so that's helpful.
okay.
Okay, Councilmember Noonhouse.
Thank you, Mayor, and forgive me, but I also need to give some kudos to the great staff work here. Thank you, Rebecca, Nick, Chair Gopal, and Molly, thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for the incredible work of the Eastside Housing Roundtable. Thank you to all the staff, all the great outreach. I mean, if Joe Kunzler was looking for an example tonight of great collaborative leadership, I think he found a great example right here in Bellevue. So maybe that's why he's such a big fan of our city. But just really great work. And again, I really appreciate all the tremendous amount of outreach, all the public hearings, et cetera. Always very important to me, and so good to see that we took in so much information and data. And thank you so much for all the stakeholders and the property owners for giving up of your valuable time and efforts. I mean, obviously you have a vested interest, but still you were part of the process and not just pushing back. You wanted to be part of this process, and that's really important. I mean, this is another example of doing it the Bellevue way, as I would like to call it. So thank you so much. I have some questions in general. Mayor, maybe like yourself, I mean, I'm leaning towards a lot of the East Side Housing Roundtable recommendations, but there are also some things that I don't think were quite addressed by the Planning Commission either that I would like to touch on. But before I get into those and some questions around that, I just want to say that, and I think my colleague here represented it very well. I mean, this is a tremendous opportunity, and we constantly talk about the lack of housing, affordable housing, that we are in a housing crisis. This is a priority for this council, and that's why I just want to start off with the statement of we need to maximize this density. And there are certain things here that are concerning to me that that doesn't maximize. I think one of our speakers tonight, Ms. Clausen, was talking about what 10 feet represents. That can be the loss of, 14 to about 160 units. That kind of stuck with me. I know there are other considerations about livability and lifestyle and safety and all the rest, but that sticks with me because I want to maximize the number of units that we can possibly have here. So a couple of things I want to touch on the MFTE super, or I think it was just called for oral communications tonight, the supercharger, kind of double counting the MFTE program. It seems to me we should absolutely do this. In fact, I pulled up some data from when Seattle did a similar program to this. It didn't have the cool name of Supercharger, but I digress. But from like 2008 to 2015, they had a similar policy as this, and they developed in that short period of time over 7,000 units of 80% income restricted housing were created, and 30,000 market rate units were developed during that time. Now, if we came close to that, I mean, that would be pretty amazing in terms of hitting some of our housing goals. So I think there's some real validity to taking a look at that, and because really the benefit there would just be tremendous. Now, I realize that this might be an issue outside the LUCA process, but this needs to be addressed, and this, I think, should be a part of the conversation going forward. The other question I had was, and Mayor, I'm assuming, again, you just want staff to come back answering these questions?
Yeah.
Or okay, great. Was the vesting of fee in lieu. I would like to understand why we don't take a similar approach, again, what the city of Seattle does, which allows for vesting of fees with land use. That seems pretty straightforward to me, that we would want to do something similar to that. So I would love it if you can come back with some rationale for why we need to do it that way. Because Bellevue does have a different permitting shot clock, and I'd just like to kind of understand that. On local streets, I would really like to understand why, and I've mentioned this before, but why are we requiring the creation of public streets on private property? And I appreciate the map and the diagram here, but it's still not really clear to me why that's a priority from a transportation perspective. Some of it does somewhat connect to major arterials, but most of it doesn't really seem like it. It just seems like we're adding a layer onto this and forcing the property owners to do that by creating that public street. just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe going back to what Councilmember Lee was talking about in terms of property rights and the costs associated with that has me a little bit concerned as well. So I'd love to know further, maybe diving down into those specific streets, why we need that there. And then lastly, I just wanted to check on the open space requirement. Again, this was an issue not addressed by the Planning Commission as far as I know, but we're asking them 10% of the site area set aside as public open space. That seems like a pretty high requirement, as much as I like open space. And my understanding right now is that downtown Bellevue does not have that requirement. I don't know, Nick or Rebecca, can you just confirm that for me? Does downtown Bellevue have that requirement right now for open space, 10%?
We have a requirement, when a building exceeds trigger height.
Okay.
That's the threshold that when they have to provide open space.
Okay.
I can confirm the number, but I'm pretty certain it is 10% when they exceed the trigger height.
Okay, but you have to confirm with me what that trigger height is.
It will vary district to district.
Okay.
I think, actually, no, maybe it's flat 70 feet, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
That's a good example of what we could follow up with. as
Okay,
details.
perfect.
Appreciate
Thank you
the
so much.
question. Thanks.
So, those are some of my top concerns. Again, great work. I think we're in a very good space, but again, I want to maximize that density. I want to maximize the units across the board here, and don't really want to hopefully find ways of not impacting the numbers that we could create, and asking the property owners to develop things that really I'd rather them putting that money into developing additional units is where I'm coming from right now. But would love it if you could provide some of that data and answer some of those questions. But again, really thrilled in terms of where we're at. So thank you.
So that's great input. So I know I'm writing it down, you're writing it down as well. We can compare notes, but I think it would be helpful, you provided kind of this table that compared the different options. I think it would, but you obviously didn't have time to include everything. If you could take some of the items that the council members have mentioned, and we still have three council members to go, that we can include those in a more detailed table and do a little comparison between staff, I'm gonna go staff/planning commission, and then the round table and the chamber. Okay? For next time that we discuss this. All right, Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Got to add just a few thank yous here as well. Certainly, thank you to Rebecca and Nick and your entire team for your efforts in shepherding the Wilburton-Luca onto the final stretch. I think the engagement and collaboration that you have supported has been a significant driver in us getting to where we are now. And it sets the standard for our most complex and challenging future collaborations. I have heard so much positive feedback about the work you've done and the way you have done it from our nonprofit and market rate developers. There are literally lists of positive feedback that are circulating and growing. I also want to appreciate Chair Geppel for being here tonight as well, so that I can heap some praise on you and all the members of the Planning Commission. We would not be nearing the finish line on Wilburton if it were not for the many hours that the Commission has given to developing a deep understanding of the complexities of what is being considered in Wilburton. Chair Geppel, you and the Commission have engaged stakeholders, asked the right questions, and led us to a place we have only a few questions left to answer, so thank you. Also appreciate the years of service that our Deputy Mayor has given to the city's planning efforts as a member of the Planning Commission and as council liaison to the Commission. Also want to express my admiration and sincere appreciation for the EHR, the Eastside Housing Roundtable Group. Joe and Patience sat side by side earlier tonight to ensure that we understand that EHR, which is made up of employers, nonprofits, business organizations, housing advocates, and private and nonprofit housing developers, has done the hard work over the last 5 years to come up with a recommendation that focuses on critically needed housing production in one of our designated density zones. I think we are in a unique situation with our market rate and nonprofit housing suppliers. EHR members have gotten on the city's housing team. Our housing suppliers have joined us in responding to one of the most pressing issues for our city and region. I can't imagine we could have any more alignment for housing production than we do right now, and I want to honor and support that commitment. And while the EHR recommendation focuses on housing as the top priority, everyone from our staff to the Planning Commission to EHR knows and supports the notion that every neighborhood is more than just a place to sleep. As the Wilburton Citizens Advisory Committee put it a few years ago in their final recommendation to council on Wilburton, quote, Bellevue's next urban mixed-use community that enhances livability, promotes healthy living, supports economic vitality, and serves the needs of a growing population. This vision for our Wilburton neighborhood is transformational for the city and the region. And it is a vision that I believe has the support of the community, the Planning Commission, city staff, and EHR. What is left for the council to do is sort out the minor differences between the Planning Commission recommendation and the EHR recommendation. I feel like we are already 95% of the way there, which I really appreciate. I'm convinced that the way we enhance livability, promote healthy living, support economic vitality, and support our growing population most effectively is for us to embrace the Planning Commission recommendation with some changes. The changes to the Planning Commission recommendation that I would like to see promotes the universally supported overall vision of Wilburton and gives us an appropriate preference to housing production. While I don't want to sound greedy, I think it's absolutely necessary that we look at the LUCA as a package and understand that each part of the code relies on the others to accomplish the vision we have for Wilburton. With that critical factor in mind, I would like to see local street widths reduced by 8 feet to 59 feet with 6-foot sidewalks. I'd like to see flexible access corridors reduced by 10 feet and include 1 4-foot amenity zone and 6-foot sidewalks. And I'd like to see shared use paths reduced to 10 feet. And while I understand that the 10-foot wide shared use path may not currently be popular with organizations like NACTO, of which the city is a member, I hope that we are able to show the benefits of them in certain situations when we interact with our NACTO peers. Making these changes to the Planning Commission recommendation ensures that Wilburton is livable and lovable. Again, this is a tremendous body of work. I can't say enough about the contributions that have been made by community members, Planning Commission, staff, and stakeholders. I look forward to having you back for a final discussion in May and really encourage us to set a deadline of June to take final action. When you come back in May, I would like to see some options with pros and cons for how we can address a few of the things that the Planning Commission did not consider and that Councilmember Neuenhuis referred to earlier. I'd like to see the provision of public open space for a development to be more in line with neighboring cities like Seattle. Is a 10% set aside too much? Seattle only requires a 5% set aside for open space, and all of it can be private. If we're going to require 10%, then I'd like to see if splitting it evenly between public and private makes the most sense. I'd like to better understand the vesting of fee in lieu in Wilburton and compare it to the process in Seattle and in our own Bell Red neighborhood so that we can make a decision about whether or not it's best for fee in lieu to vest at land use vesting or not. I tend to think it is, but I'd like some more information. I would like to consider whether or not it makes sense for the code to require proportional compliance for a future phase of development at the time one phase moves forward. If we have a master development plan in place, do we need to require proportional compliance? To me, it does not support a quick housing development if we require housing suppliers to make certain modifications that they will only have to remove in the future. But again, I'd like to know more. And when it comes to commercial affordable housing performance, I tend to think it should mirror the residential standard and allow it to be done off-site, but some more information from you would be helpful. And lastly, for the Wilburton Luca to produce the affordable housing we desperately need, we have to update our MFTE. Our nonprofit and market rate housing developers can't produce the housing if they aren't able to stack the MFTE incentives. I want to be sure that we're very clear when we take final action on the Wilburton Luca that we will update MFTE this fall. And with that in mind, what I would like to see, or would like to do, is to direct staff to develop an option to stack MFTE units without requiring a reduction in affordability levels, or and what Councilmember Neuenhouse referred to as the MFTE supercharger. Thank you.
I'm hoping we can not do that tonight. We can get more information from staff before we make a move like that.
Yes, or if maybe we could just have a look at what that would be, what it would look like, and maybe you could bring that back to us
That'd be
on the
great.
20th. And I just see us really as having two options here, Mayor, in front of us. That's the EHR option and the Planning Commission option. And of those two, I am fully in support of the EHR option.
Oh, all right. Got it. Okay, Councilmember Suma Deweria.
Thank you for giving me the grace. Let me do last. Thank you. This is my second council meeting, and this is like, wow, like, you know? But you know what I would say, I think that, you know, as long as we can hear every room, every voice in the room, that no dream is too big. And then if able to hear every stakeholder, that really help us to move forward to the goal and making our city great and global level with the local heart. That's really important. And listen to these things. And also listen from my fellow council member, always supporting me, and hearing from different from the staff, from stakeholders. You all giving me very honest and authentic information. And that is what's needed, because the difference in the room is going to make us grow faster and then able to find accommodation, how to help the city move first. I just have a few clarifying questions. I'm not going to make any decision yet because I think it's not fair to do that, and I would love to learn more. On the slide 17, the 4-inch amenity zone, is that the same thing as the service corridor? Is the same as amenity zone?
The service corridor is a different access type that would allow for back-of-house activity.
Okay.
And then the amenity zone is a feature of the flex access and the local street. You could see it kind of in the graphic for the flex access. It's the area where you see more greenery, the lights, that's the amenity zone. And we broaden it out beyond just landscape strip because you can also see there's a bench, there's some bike racks, other things that can kind of land within that space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My next question was, I think this could be, we can come back later. I was wondering, how does the current draft, address the balance between high density and ground level activation for businesses? I think that if I can see the full picture, what's it look like and how can they complement each other, will help me to see it. I think, because on slide 7 and 14, we both talk about amenity incentive system that focus on affordable commercial space use. I mean, as a small business owner myself, I think street level activation, the attractiveness makes us help to understand the density benefit between those. That's my, let's see. And then there is also, I have 2 questions about, I think it'd be helpful for me to learn about the pros and cons, both for the fee in lieu, the options, the vesting timelines, and also the master development plan too. Because I think as in business, also our resident growing, any kind of uncertainty is not helpful for any stakeholders, and it puts a lot of stress on the residents and everybody, every room in the room. So I think that helped me to understand the pro cons from both sides, both from the property owners and also the residents and also our city. That'll be helpful for me to make decision. And then lastly, and by the way, thank you for doing the engagement with the resident. I think so far, I think they are the important, one of the most important party in this decision-making process because we have to grow together. I was wondering, under the new requirement, is there any specific implementation of tools or guidelines that's being developed just especially help the property owners and then also the residents understand the new requirement? And that's it for me. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent questions and comments.
Thank you,
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you so much. Such a great comment from my colleagues. I always learn and appreciate their comments. I have also some items that I wanted to hear back, but also because, and I'm going to say what I am going to land on some of the others. I would love to learn about MFTE more. I really think in the beginning, till 5 years, I'm throwing number, definitely for encouraging development, we should not go and ask for lower affordability, but I would love to see a scenario that we can revisit that. We are revisiting everything. Even our catalyst has some items that we can revisit and come back. But I completely agree, especially with Roundtable, that maybe for the beginning and initiating, encouraging development happens, let's just, as the catalyst program, let's just do not ask for additional affordability, but of course I would love to see some proposal for where can we and when can we revisit that. In the local street, I have just one question on one of the properties, I think the Briarwood Center. I would love to know more about that. Is there really essential, and what other options do we have there? Now back to Councilmember Hamilton said between the two proposals, he strongly agreed with the Roundtable. In the top 4 things, including local street, flexible access, shared use path, I strongly support Planning Commission recommendation. And in also open space, I also think the last Roundtable letter to Planning Commission that I believe was 10%, I also aligned with that. And my ration about that, and I know that we are going to say affordable housing and we need more housing and affordable housing a lot, and I understand that because I agree we need that. But raising the height to 450 or 250 or 100 in Wilburton should have a public benefit. And I think that public benefit is a place that is safe, walkable, and vibrant. This street design is not just a random number. We are saying, okay, now we should go 2 feet or 3 feet. I think these are essentials infrastructure needed for a healthy, inclusive, and sustainable urban neighborhood. We have an expert in our staff, although I'm a civil engineer, so I may have some expertise here, but they are the transportation staff. They have done this work for a long time, and they are telling us this vision that we have in Wilburton need 8 feet wide. The argue on density, I think there have been so much flexibility and a smart density that any developer can maximize their density if they want to. These 2 feet reduction in sidewalk doesn't impact that much. They have the FAR, floor plate. They can do a cantilever in the upper floors to gain floor area with preserving the sidewalk length. So the flexibility, and I encourage my council members, go and read this, Luca. The flexibility is so much that I think every developer, if they want, they can maximum the density. The last thing I wanted to add is we talk about balance, and I love that word. I think Planning Commission already achieved that balance. So this plan reflects months of collaboration work between staff and stakeholders, negotiation between Roundtable, between themselves, and then staff and Roundtable. Months of negotiation. So compromise happened. Then it came to Planning Commission. 7 study session. They also again was compromise happen. I think this is a balance, and if now we are going to do another compromise that basically whatever developer telling us to say just completely we abide and follow, then I think we do not have balance, and I think that's going to be not fair to the work that Planning Commission has done. So that's my speaking point.
Okay, got that? All right, these have been excellent comments and feedback and requests for more information. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation. Do you feel like you've gotten the information that you need to come back to us? And when do you think that will be?
I think we have a placeholder on May 20th.
On May 20th, you say? Okay, that's excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there's a written report, intergovernmental relations, the monthly update as of March 31st, 2025, which I read and is very interesting. I recommend you read it as well. And with that, we are adjourned.